Have you ever spent an entire evening learning new English words, only to forget almost all of them a few days later? Maybe you've bought vocabulary books. Maybe you've made flashcards. Maybe you've written hundreds of words into a notebook, and every single time, the same thing happens. You remember them today, but next week, they're gone. It's frustrating. It makes you wonder, am I just bad at learning English? What if I told you the problem isn't your memory? What if your brain is actually doing exactly what it's supposed to do? And what if the real problem is the way you've been learning vocabulary all this time? Today, we're going to discover why your brain doesn't like vocabulary lists, and more importantly, how to make your brain actually want to remember new English words. Hi everyone, welcome back to English Joyride. If this is your first time here, I'm really happy you found this channel. Here at English Joyride, we believe learning English doesn't have to feel difficult. You don't need thousands of grammar rules. You don't need to memorize endless vocabulary lists. You simply need to understand how English works and how your brain learns best. Every week, we explore simple ideas that make your English feel more natural, more enjoyable, and much easier to remember. So if that's exactly what you're looking for, you're in the right place. In today's lesson, you'll learn 4 surprising reasons why vocabulary lists usually fail. Then, I'll share 5 simple techniques that can completely change the way you learn English. And don't worry, you don't need expensive apps. You don't need to study for hours every day. In fact, one of today's tips only takes about 5 minutes, but it can help you remember words for months. So, stay with me, because the last technique is the one I personally use every single day. Before we jump in, if you enjoy simple English lessons like this, please take 1 second to subscribe to English Joyride. It really helps the channel grow, and it allows me to keep making free lessons every week. Alright, let's begin. Section 1, the big mistake everyone makes. Imagine this. It's Monday evening. You sit down with your English notebook. Today's goal? Learn 20 new words. You read the first word, then the second, then the third. You copy each word 3 times. You even say them out loud. After 30 minutes, you feel productive. You close your notebook and think, today was a good study session. But now, let's move forward 3 days. Someone asks you, what does generous mean? Suddenly, your mind goes completely blank. You know you've seen the word before. You almost remember it, but not quite. Does that sound familiar? Most English learners think this means they have a bad memory, but that's simply not true. Think about something else. Can you remember your best friend's name? Of course. Can you remember your favorite food? Absolutely. Can you remember the name of your hometown? No problem. So your memory clearly works. The question isn't, why is my memory bad? The better question is, why does my brain remember some things, but forget other things? And that's where everything changes. Because your brain isn't trying to make your life difficult. It's actually trying to help you. Your brain has one very important job. Every single day, it receives millions of pieces of information. Sounds, faces, conversations, smells, numbers, pictures, words. If your brain remembered absolutely everything, life would become impossible. So instead, your brain asks one simple question. Is this important? If the answer is yes, it keeps it. If the answer is no, it quietly lets it go.
And here's the problem. A vocabulary list doesn't give your brain any reason to believe those words are important. To your brain, they're just random marks on a piece of paper. No story, no emotion, no purpose, no connection. Just another list. And that's why, before we even talk about memory, we need to understand something much more important. Your brain doesn't remember information. Your brain remembers meaning. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next.
Section 2. Why your brain doesn't like vocabulary lists. So, why does this happen? Why does your brain forget so many words, even after you've spent so much time studying them? The answer is actually much simpler than most people think. You don't need to understand complicated science. You don't need to know difficult words about the brain. All you need are 4 simple ideas. And once you understand these ideas, you'll never look at vocabulary lists the same way again. Reason 1. Your brain looks for meaning. Let's imagine something. You're walking through your house. Suddenly, you notice an old piece of paper on the floor. You look at it. It says, table. Just one word. Table. That's all? What would you do? Most people would throw it away because it doesn't mean anything. It has no purpose. It doesn't help you. It's just a word. Now imagine something different. You find another piece of paper. This one says, Happy birthday, Mom. Thank you for everything. Would you throw that away? Probably not. Why? Because now the words have meaning. They remind you of a person, a memory, a feeling. Your brain works exactly the same way. Every time you learn a new word, your brain quietly asks, why should I keep this? If it finds a good reason, it keeps the word. If it doesn't, it simply lets it go. That's why vocabulary lists are so difficult. They show you words, but they don't show you why those words matter. Let me tell you a quick story. I once had a student who learned over 2,000 English words. 2,000. That's impressive, isn't it? But one day, I asked him a simple question. Can you tell me about your weekend? He couldn't. Not because he didn't know enough words, but because those words had never become part of his life. They were still living inside a notebook, not inside his mind. And believe it or not, this isn't even the biggest reason. The next one is even more important. Reason 2. Your brain loves connections. Think about your best friend. When you hear their name, what happens? You probably see their face. You remember their voice. Maybe you remember something funny they said. Maybe you remember your last trip together. One name brings back hundreds of memories. That's because your brain builds connections. It doesn't store information like books on a shelf. It stores information like a giant spider web. Every memory connects to another memory. Every picture connects to another picture. Every feeling connects to another feeling. Now let's compare 2 different ways of learning. First, you write, delicious equals very tasty. That's all. Second, you hear someone say, wow, this chocolate cake is absolutely delicious. Suddenly, you can almost smell the cake. You imagine taking a bite. Maybe you even remember your favorite dessert. Which one do you think your brain prefers? The second one. Every single time. Because now, the word isn't alone anymore. It has friends. It has a picture. It has a memory. It has a story. Imagine trying to hang a picture on a wall. Would you use one tiny piece of thread? Probably not. It would fall. Instead, you use a strong hook, then a screw, then maybe another support. That's exactly how memory works. One connection isn't very strong. 5 connections
are much harder to break. By the way, I'm curious, how do you usually learn new vocabulary? Do you still use vocabulary lists, flashcards, watching movies, reading books? Let me know in the comments. I read as many comments as I can, and I always enjoy seeing how different people learn English. Reason 3. Your brain keeps what you use. Now let's imagine your bedroom. Look around. Which things are easiest to reach? Probably your phone, your keys, your favorite cup, maybe your headphones. Why? Because you use them every day. Now think about something else. Maybe an old charger, a broken umbrella, or a shirt you haven't worn for 2 years. Where are those things? Probably hidden somewhere. Maybe inside a box. Maybe in the back of a closet. Your brain organizes words in exactly the same way. The words you use every day stay close. The words you never use slowly disappear. It's actually very efficient. Imagine if your brain tried to remember every phone number, every advertisement, every random conversation, every word you've ever seen. You'd never find the information you actually need. So your brain cleans itself every single day. It keeps the useful things and quietly removes the rest, which means reading a word once is almost never enough. Your brain needs proof. It needs to see that this word matters. And the easiest way to prove that is to actually use it. But there's one less reason. And honestly, I think it's the one that makes most English learners feel relieved. Because once you understand it, you'll finally stop blaming yourself every time you forget a word. Let's talk about that next.
Reason 4. Forgetting is completely normal. Before we talk about how to remember words, I want you to hear something, and I really hope you believe it. Forgetting is normal. Really. It doesn't mean you're bad at English. It doesn't mean your memory is weak. And it definitely doesn't mean you're too old to learn a language. Let me ask you something. Can you remember what you had for lunch exactly 3 weeks ago? Probably not. Can you remember every person you walked past yesterday? Probably not. Can you remember every advertisement you saw on your phone this morning? Of course not. And that's okay. Your brain isn't designed to remember everything. It's designed to remember what matters. Imagine your brain is like the camera roll on your phone. Every day, hundreds of new photos arrive. If you never deleted anything, you'd quickly run out of space. So what do? You keep your favorite photos, the important ones. The ones with your family, your friends, your holidays. And you delete the blurry screenshots, the accidental pictures, and the things you don't need anymore. Your brain does exactly the same thing. Every day, it quietly asks, should I keep this? If the answer is no, it lets it go. That's not failure, that's efficiency. And honestly, that's a good thing. I know many English learners feel guilty when they forget words. They think, I've studied this word 5 times already. Why can't I remember it? But maybe you're asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, why do I keep forgetting? Try asking, have I given my brain a reason to remember? That one question changes everything. So, if vocabulary lists don't work, what does? The good news is, you don't need a better memory. You only need a better system. And that's exactly what we're going to build together. 5 simple ways to make words stay. Don't worry, these aren't difficult techniques. You don't need expensive courses. You don't need special apps. And you definitely don't need to study 6 hours a day. These are small changes. But together,
They make a huge difference. Technique 1. Never learn a word. Alone. Let's go back to the word. Delicious, which is easier to remember, just reading delicious, or hearing someone say, this pizza is absolutely delicious. The answer is obvious, because now the word has a home. It isn't standing alone anymore. It belongs somewhere. Think about people. It's much easier to remember someone when you know where you met them. Oh, she's my coworker. He's my neighbor. We met at university. Words work exactly the same way. A sentence gives every word an address. So from today, stop learning single words. Learn complete sentences instead. Even short sentences are enough. Your brain loves context. Technique 2. Connect every word to your own life. Here's something many textbooks never tell you. Your life is your best English textbook. Think about the word tired. Don't just memorize it. Ask yourself, when was I tired? Maybe yesterday after work. Maybe after going to the gym. Maybe after taking care of your children. Now, make one sentence. I was so tired after work yesterday. That's it. Suddenly, the word isn't just English anymore. It's your experience, your memory, your story. And your brain loves personal stories. Every time you connect English to your own life, you're making the memory stronger. I once met a student who loved cooking. Every day, she learned 5 cooking words: chop, boil, fry, stir, bake. She used these words while making dinner. After only 1 month, she remembered almost every single one. Why? Because she wasn't studying vocabulary anymore. She was simply talking about her own life in English. Now, the next technique might surprise you because it has nothing to do with studying longer. In fact, it asks you to study less, but somehow remember much more. Technique 3. Meet the word again and again. Here's something that completely changed the way I learn English. Most people think if they spend 3 hours studying vocabulary today, they'll remember everything. But that's not how your brain works. Think about meeting a new neighbor. The first time you see them, you might smile. Maybe you say hello. But 2 weeks later, you've probably forgotten their name. Now imagine something different. You see the same neighbor tomorrow, then again next week, then again at the supermarket, then again while walking your dog. Little by little, they stop being a stranger. One day, you know their name, you know where they work, you even stop and chat for a few minutes. You didn't memorize your neighbor. You simply met them again and again. Words work exactly the same way. You don't need one long study session. You need many short meetings. Read the word today. See it again tomorrow. Hear it in a podcast. Notice it in a YouTube video. Read it in a story. Use it in a sentence.
Every meeting tells your brain, this word keeps coming back. Maybe it's important. Maybe I should keep it. That's how memories grow, not all at once, but one small step at a time. Technique 4. Speak before you write. Let me ask you something. How do children learn their first language? Do they start with notebooks? Did they memorize word lists? Did they write every new word 10 times? Of course not. They listen, they copy, they speak, even when they make mistakes, especially when they make mistakes. That's why I want you to try something different. The next time you learn a new word, don't write it first. Say it. Hear yourself say it. Then say it again. Put it inside a sentence. Make that sentence about your own life. Smile while you say it. Move your hands if it helps. Make it feel real. Because when you only read a word, one part of your brain is working. But when you speak, listen, think, and imagine. Many different parts work together, and that makes the memory much stronger. Don't worry about sounding perfect. Perfect isn't the goal. Using the word, that's the goal. Technique 5, turn every word into a picture. Here's my favorite technique. It's simple, it's fun, and it works surprisingly well. Every time you learn a new word, don't look for another translation. Look for a picture. Better yet, create one in your imagination. Let's use the word enormous. You could simply memorize enormous means very big, but that's boring. Instead, close your eyes. Imagine an elephant so enormous that it can't fit inside your house. Its head is sticking through the roof. Its ears cover all the windows. Every time it moves, the whole house shakes. That's a strange picture, and that's exactly why your brain remembers it. Your brain loves unusual things, funny things, emotional things. The stranger, the image, the easier it is to remember. So don't be afraid to make your imagination a little silly. Your brain will thank you for it. A 5-minute daily routine. Now, you might be wondering, where do I start? Let me make it as simple as possible. Tomorrow morning, don't try to learn 20 new words. Learn just 3. That's it. 3 words. For each word, find one simple sentence. Say it out loud 3 times. Then make one sentence about your own life. It doesn't have to be perfect. It only has to be true. The next day, before learning anything new, spend 1 minute looking at yesterday's words. Read them, say them, smile, and move on. 5 minutes, that's all. 5 minutes every day is much more powerful than 2 hours once a week. Small habits create big results. Before we finish today's lesson, I want you to remember just one thing. If you've been forgetting English words, please don't be angry with yourself. You're not lazy, you're not bad at languages, and your memory isn't broken. Your brain has been trying to help you all along. It simply didn't understand why those words mattered. From today, don't fight your brain. Teach it in the way it naturally learns. Give words a story. Give them a picture. Give them a place in your own life. Meet them again and again. Use them in real conversations. And little by little, you'll notice something amazing. The words stop disappearing. They begin to stay. Not because you force yourself to memorize them, but because they finally became meaningful. That's the difference. If today's lesson helped you, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. And if you'd like to build your English in a simple, natural way, don't forget to subscribe to English Joyride. Every week, we explore practical ideas that make learning English easier, more enjoyable, and much more effective. And I'd love to have you here with us. Before you leave, I've picked another lesson that I think you'll really enjoy. If today's video helped you remember vocabulary, the next one will help you understand native speakers more easily. Just click the video on your screen, and let's keep learning together. Until next time, take care of yourself. Keep learning. Keep smiling, and remember, every small step you take today brings you one step closer to speaking English with confidence. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.